How's it going, everyone? We are back today with a list that's probably one of the more out there lists I've made in a while. But it's been really, really fun, and I think this is probably like ranks as one of the least played leaders in One Piece. So I've been excited to really kind of cook with him and experience the gameplay style. But we're talking about Red Black Sabo, who, if you don't know, he can protect a card that is KO'd by instead giving it 1,000 power less for the turn, if that original character was 5,000 power or more. And he does require a Don under him to do this ability. So right off the bat, I think you can see that this is very, very good into Lucci. If you have a card that has not attacked yet, and Lucci tries to remove it with his own Lucci or a Brook or something like that, you can choose to use this leader ability, and that card will stay on the board with just 1,000 power less for the rest of the turn. So really, really nice. I think that is kind of one reason to play this deck. If you think you'll see a lot of Lucci, you have kind of a nice built-in counter against that on-play removal, which also extends a bit into Enel, who does like 2 Starview Bid and then do Gedatsu. This is a good way to counter that. And historically, I think people have said Sabo is not a good leader because red-black is probably the worst color combination in One Piece. There really isn't a lot of synergy for it. And that is still true with this build, that you're not really leveraging the synergy between the color combinations. It's more about leveraging the leader ability and trying to build around that. And obviously he is a 4-life leader, which, you know, historically is always very challenging. I think in the past, a lot of Sabo builds went one of 2 ways. Either you were a Revolutionary Army build, or you were kind of a Navy build that focused on having Borsellino and like the 5-drop Hina and other blockers that basically got 2 blocks on them because you were able to use leader ability to save them after 1 big block. So you were just kind of like building a wall of blockers, and one of those blockers would get to block twice, and it was a really nice way to survive longer into the game. And I don't think either version really found any success outside of people who maybe did some well in their locals. I opted for a different route. So I think if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that I play a lot of aggro decks, a lot of rush characters. And I think if you kind of checked out any of the streams where we've played things like Dragon or Red Purple Kid, the issue with the rush characters is you do lose a lot of momentum because you play the character and then you typically lose the next turn. And Sabo kind of fixes that problem where on my going second on my 4-Don turn, I can play a Zoro, swing for 5k, put a Don under Sabo, swing for 6k, and now that Zoro is protected from 1 attack. So if I'm versing a Lucci, for example, and he swings 5 at my Zoro, I can counter out of that 5, and then if he decides to play Lucci to try to KO it, I can use leader ability to save the Zoro, and now I have 2 attackers for the next turn. So I have found that you can't be very aggressive with this deck because the leader ability does protect some of those characters. And so it's a really, really interesting way to play, I think, the leader. There's a couple of cards here that support that. So, instead of using the Navy package or the Revolutionary Army package, we are actually using the Straw Hat package because it does have the best rushers in the game. It also has this 4-drop Brook, which historically is not a great card because it typically is too slow. It does, the second you play it, it's going to be gone. And Lucci and Enel will have a harder time removing this because you have your leader ability. So you can play it, hold it up for a turn, and then now all of a sudden you have a lot more access to their boards because they were not able to remove it before you turned it sideways. So I think that's a really nice use for this card in this deck. I think this 5-drop Yamato is a really great character. It is protected by Sabo's leader ability because it is 5-cost power. So if you have nothing else to play, you can play this on like a 5-Don turn if you were forced to go first, and then you can use the ability of the Yamato to give the Don to Sabo, and now you have a 5-cost body that can help move around and rest Don every turn. That cannot be KO'd with on-play effects. So it does synergize really well. You do want to go second with this deck, which is why we have the Haruda, which you could do the 1-drop Nami. It's not searchable by Nami herself, so I opted for the Haruda instead because worst comes to worst, you can turn this sideways and attack with it a little bit easier. So going second, I do like to play this, which just kind of frees up your Don a little bit to play bigger things. Instead of doing Zoro on your second turn, you could do Brook, you could do Borsellino, and you could still use your leader ability. So I do like the Haruda for that reason. You do have the Sanji. He's a little risky to play on your second Don turn because you're a 4-life leader, so going down to 3, maybe even 2 on your first swing is scary, but in certain matchups you may want to do that, and so that's why we have that searchable 2k there. We do run the Koala just because we have access to the -3000, which I think is very important against leaders like Bonney who play 8-drop Kid. And to some degree Enel, who might be playing like very large bodies that you're having trouble removing before you want to go for game. And so Koala just enables a little bit more of that board control. Also, not a huge investment to bring this to 5K and swing with it if you'd like to. Outside of that, just a really good 2K. We do obviously run the Nico Robin for the Rebecca's and also the Bond Clays. Dragon is a really, really good top end for this deck because on your 8 Dawn turn, you can play Dragon and then Sabo, give the Dawn to Sabo, and his leader ability is now online. So this Dragon is protected. So a lot of problems that you kind of have with Dragon against Lucci, for example, is it's almost certainly going to die the next turn. It's very, very easy for Lucci to remove an 8 cost, especially with stage on board. And this makes it a little harder for them to do that. They may have to swing super big into it and then try to remove it, which if they do that, that's pretty much the end of their whole turn. And that kind of frees you up to play a second rush character the next turn and do it all over again without having to go even lower on life, which is nice. Obviously, Rush Luffy, I don't know if he needs to stay at 5. I might maybe move some things around so that you do have 2 keep killers instead, so you just have a little bit more flexibility in your rush characters. But obviously, Rush Luffy is a very, very, very good card. And then we do run the Borsalino and the Sabo because those blockers are very, very strong in this deck, especially Borsalino, who already cannot be removed by KO effects. Just a really good play on your forward on turn. The blockers just kind of help round out the defensive power of the deck. And then we have a couple of counter events. We do run a lot of bricks, so we do run 2 of the Bad Manners Hit Course and 3 of the Rad Beam because we are at 2 life very, very quickly. Overall, I think this deck is really, really fun. It's the playstyle is really rewarding. It's really aggressive. Your board is a lot stickier than a lot of other leaders. And, you have a really good matchup into Lucci. I think you have a really good matchup into Enel. I think you can have a good matchup into some of the blue decks that are getting popularity, like Doflamingo or Boa. I think you may struggle into Red, Purple, Law, and Bonney, but that's kind of why we try to run for Bonney, at least the Brook and the Koalas. And then Red, Purple, Law, I think is probably going to be the toughest matchup just because he kind of circumvents the entire leader ability. And then at the end of the day, you're stuck being a 4-life leader against a Red, Purple, Law that's playing 2-3 characters a turn. And so I think that's where the rush characters will play a big role, and then hopefully getting to your dragons quickly while you're at a high enough Dawn to kind of clear the board. I'm not sure yet if I think the strategy against Red, Purple, Law as Sabo is to starve him. I don't know that you can afford to, given how low you are in life, but that might be your best course of action. Or if it's not that, it could just be erasing him with your rush characters, trying to get to the KO before he can and finish the game with Luffy. I'm not super sure yet, but we're going to kind of keep testing this deck, and I'll include some ranked gameplay right after this, and we can kind of see what is working and what's not working. And yeah, I really like this deck. I think I want to test it on stream a bit, and if you guys are around and you want to see that, definitely tune in on Twitch or YouTube, and we can kind of keep playing around with this deck. All right, let's jump into some gameplay. All right, we do have a match against Enel here. We're going second. Our opening hand isn't super aggressive. It has like a really good early game, so I will test it out, and then hopefully we do see some of the later game pieces that we would like to see. We have a lot of defensive pieces, so I do like that. I am not sure if I want to play the Sanji or the Haruta here. I think it really, really depends on what this Enel player likes to do. Some Enel players see a 4-life leader and they're going to automatically start being aggressive. Others like to starve you out, and so one is better than the other depending on the situation. Very hard to tell. We're just going to have to take a gamble. All right, they did go Flampe. We do have the Brook here, so I do feel safe playing the Haruta because if he Gadosses the Brook, we can protect it with our leader ability. The Flampe is always a great play for Enel. They don't really care about how low they are in life, and so this is a good way to keep them, or a good way to draw cards for that leader. Okay, so they do have the Shirahoshi up. Part of me, and I've done this before, part of me is tempted to play the Nico Robin to kill the Shirahoshi even though they gain a life, just because it prevents a block on their terms. A block can be very, very powerful. It can be the difference between killing, a Yamato and not killing Yamato. And so sometimes giving them the life is worth it if it means that you kind of get to force counter out of their hand and set the aggression at the pace you want it to be set at. We will see for now, though. For now, we're just going to keep going as is. We have now just basically invalidated the Gadatsu on the Brook. Haruta is still a target for it, which, is not the end of the world. We have the Yamato for this kind of same reason here. It'll take the place of the Haruta if we lose it. And there's Gadatsu. He did not read my leader ability. Tried to hit the Brook. Does not work. And it's a good reminder on ranked sim to always read your opponent's cards, even if you are confident that you will not see this leader too much in real life. I think let's open with this here. Nothing super great. We will grab the 0 cost event. That is our only target. And then let's do a 6K here. Let's play the Yamato. All right. So now we have a good amount of attackers for our next turn. He will be at 7 Dawn, so not too worried about healing. We can hopefully get him down to 0 life next turn with 4 attacks. We'll kind of see where the block comes in. And he should target the Haruta here. That would be the smart move. Oh, there it is. And I think he'll probably swing now. Nope. Oh, okay, he will. But he'll do it. Yeah, we'll give it 2K there. That is fine. Ooh, okay. Ooh, this is interesting. This is very interesting. So Dragon's always a really good play here. All right. Here, let's do this. Interesting. Let's see if we can get more counter out of his hand. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I will say that the way this Enel player is approaching this is not, I would say these are not the optimal plays. I'm not, an Enel player. I don't play him as much as a lot of other people. I have played him a good amount, and I played against him a good amount. I think I do have a good barometer of like what a really strong Enel player is probably going to do versus what someone who is still learning the leader might do. And yeah, this is all very questionable. So now he's at 0 cards in hand. I think we can all agree that going 0 cards in hand so early in the game is not what you want to do as Enel. He did get rid of a Katakuri, which he could have very easily put the Onami on his life here this turn, which would have been a much stronger play. He is, I guess, top deck to Yamato. We are just going to keep all of our bodies on board using either leader ability or counter. All right, so there is that. He did not get a Yamato, so we don't have to worry about that. We'll go to 4K here. If he's not going to heal, I don't have to. Okay, he did top attack on Katakuri. Oh, interesting. And he does put Dragon back on my life. All right, the Zoro will be good there. Let's start with the 5K on Nami. I mean, we really just have to worry about triggers here and nothing else. Let's do 5K on leader. Yeah, okay, 7K on. I think most people would agree that the move there was to put Onami back into life and not really worry about putting Dragon back in, because the Onami would have killed one of my bodies. But overall, I think going down to 0 there was a mistake. He should have let that Gadatsu go much, much sooner, gone down to either his replacement life or to 0, and then just healed with the Katakuri in the subsequent turn. He already had one in hand, so he did not need to draw into this one. Yeah, I think this was a bit of a weird example, but it did highlight the power of the deck and what the deck can do. As you saw, the Gadatsus did not really have great targets, so we were able to build a board despite what the Enel wanted to do. And then we just saw our rush characters and went for game, which is typically how this goes. And also kind of very similar to how it goes against Lucci. Let's see if we can find another ranked match that can highlight the potential power of this deck. All right, this is probably one of our worst matchups. I do like that we have a turn 2 play here, but unfortunately, because we don't have Brooks or Koalas or anything that would make it easier to kill 8-drop Kid, we did have to mulligan. And I'm kind of happy with how we mulliganed here. This is, I think, a much better hand. And we can, in fact, oh, there we go. And we have, I think this is perfect. It's kind of exactly what you want to see. So we'll see how we're able to leverage this. I still really haven't figured out if you want to try to starve Bonney. I don't think it's possible as at least this deck because we don't really carry a lot of on-play removal. But maybe other decks could have more success. He does play the Barto. Since we're going to play, I think he's at 4, so it'll be 6 turn. I think we'll play the Brook, so we'll swing 6k with our leader. Play the Brook, and we will pass turn. If he does swing into this, we will obviously use our leader ability. Maybe he'll swing with the Brook. I think that might be a mistake. So we'll see what happens. I think there is a world where you could try to rush down the Bonney before they're able to establish some of their big pieces. It is harder when they play Rouge on curve and then immediately go into like Hawkins. But because he started with the Barto, which is really good for, cycling out bad dead cards, but less good for, giving you the leader ability, I think we are in a slightly better position here. It is unfortunate we don't have a rush character we can play. I think like Luffy or Zoro would go really hard here and be very effective. But he didn't get the Rouge. He didn't leave a Dawn up, so we are able to do some serious damage here and go 7k at the leader. I kind of hoped he might block the first one. He did not. I'm debating which of these to play. I think a second Brook would be very, very powerful here. So let's play that second Brook. Obviously, if he plays the Kid here, he does not have enough Dawn to use the ability. So we could see a second Hawkins come down. We could see like a kind of double Rouge, something to just give him more space. Could even Hody this turn, which I think would be a mistake. All right, he did Hody. I don't know that I agree with that play. It does kind of open us up to really just go for game next turn. But I think he is trying to clear this board a little bit. Depending on if he swings with everything, we may actually just clear his board instead next turn. I'm wondering if I can tempt him to swing with this Hawkins. And there is our leader ability. The Hody is not super great here. He did swing with the Hawkins. He is going to have to leave a Dawn up. If he swings with the Barto, we will just go for game. All right, no Barto swing. All right, I think we're going to try to clear board here. Okay. Let's put some pressure on this Hody Jones. We obviously will not be able to kill it with the dragon, but I don't think we die next turn. I'm guessing we'll see a 10-drop come down, maybe the 8-drop. Either way, we'll be able to protect at least one of our characters. Okay, so he's down to 7 cards in hand. I think we're in a pretty good spot. If he does 8-drop here, I think it's a perfect koala turn. Okay, so that's gone. He's saving 10 Dawn, so I do think we are seeing... Oh, Cavendish? Hawkins? All right. All right, so we will have to open with the dragon. It is our highest attacker. We don't really have a choice there. I'm wondering if we'll get an early block out of this. All right, early block is nice. We do like to see it. Do you think it is safe to kill the Hody Jones here? And then a nice 6k into lead. All right, we should be good to go for game next turn. If he kids, if he, yep, right, he's going to kid. We are going to answer with some koalas. He does have the Cavendish, so we'll probably lose one body, but he only has 2 attacks. So not the end of the world. I am feeling very, very comfortable with how this is going. I think this is probably the best case scenario for one of our worst matchups. It becomes harder if they're able to consistently leave that Dawn up, and because there was like 1 or 2 turns where we were able to get an extra attack in, I think it really put the pressure on Bonney and does showcase how this deck might have a shot. So the Brook is gone. We're going to see... Oh, okay. So no blocker. Oh, all right. That clearly he missed the numbers there, and he conceded very quickly. But I think you can see that you go back, pause the video, you can see what his hand looked like. But we had the answer. We had dragon in our hand. We were going to do a 3rd dragon. It's going to be great. So yeah, that was a really, really nice match against Bonney. I do want to see if we can find a Lucci. I think Lucci is probably like the other really strong matchup. And so if we can get a win against Enel, Bonney, and Lucci in one video, I think we'll get a whole bunch of Red Black Sabo believers in the comments. So that'll be really exciting. Let me see if we can find a Lucci on ranked, and I'll put that in as the last match of the set. All right, I was able to find a Lucci, and so we are forced to go first here. But we have like a decent opening hand, so gonna play it out. All right, he does get the stage, as all good Lucci players do, and we are hitting back with some 5k swings. We will have our Borsellino. We'll see if this Lucci runs the Brook. I have seen that the Brook is a really good counter to a lot of what we're trying to do. But if he doesn't run the Brook, we're in a pretty good spot. He's got Sabo Kaku Spandine. All right, there's a 2k. Spandum. When I say the Brook, the 6-drop Brook is the one that really kind of gets around a lot of what we try to do. The 3-drop Brook can be annoying, but is not as much of a threat. And there it is. Rather than the Borsellino, let's actually play the Yamato here. I think will set up some nice future turns for us. All right, here's where things get interesting. He could no. If he plays like a Suru and swings, or just plays a Suru, he could try to Kaku and Brook to like double KO it, which would get around the restriction. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the route he goes. It would get a Suru out of hand and would be some removal, and we'd just kind of counter that with some aggression, but we'll see what happens. He could also just Sabo this turn, maybe a 5k with Brook followed by a Sabo. Oh, 7k with Spandum. You don't see that as much. And no Brook play. Okay, really holding up that Brook, does not want it to go to waste. I think we are going to play Luffy this turn, so I think we'll do 5k. Yeah, let's do 5 here. Let's do 6 here. All right, he has a lot of counter in hand already. Let's do 7 here. We'll keep 1 up for a Rad Beam and see where it goes from there. He does have Rebecca, Spandine, and Lucci in his trash, so I suspect we'll see a Moria come down, which I am not concerned about, because if he does Lucci, the ruling on Sabo's effect is for things like Lucci or the 8-drop Sabo, You can, even though it says you can only save one character with the leader ability, you can save both because that KO kind of happens simultaneously. So we'll see if he's aware of this ruling. A lot of people are not. I do think we're going to see a Sabo play here. Sabo play would be better for us than Moria, Rebecca, and Spendy and Lucci. It's just a more concentrated play, not as wide. But I think both are workable. It just kind of depends what happens. Okay, he started with a finger gun on Monkey D. Luffy. Can he follow it up with a Lucci play here? I don't think so. We are at 3 and 4. He can swing big with Brook, for example, though. Probably best case for scenario for us that he did not play a big boss monster here. He did have a lot of early game counter, was able to get out of many swings, and so, oh, okay. And then, I see. That is fine by us. Okay, we drew all of our rad beams. Not what you typically want to see, but what we have seen. So we'll have to deal with that. We'll start with a 6K onto the Brook. Just get this out of the way. Let's follow up with a 7K with Leader, which should connect, or else he is a counter god. He's a counter god. 0 cost event. All right, nothing in hand now. Very few threats. We have a bunch of rad beams. I think it's fairly safe to say this game is kind of in the bag for us. He cannot effectively remove both of these. We do have a bunch of counter if he tries to swing big. Not a huge swing, but we have a lot of rad beams. We have the Dawn up. Let's just use it. And now if he chooses to Moria, yep. This Nico Robin will be huge for us. And could potentially just win us the game here. Spandine. And the Lucci. Use our card action. All right, I did not catch what they drew with the Nico Robin. Was it a 2K? Drew Spandine from trash. Oh, interesting. Oh, no, he did. Huh, okay, so he probably doesn't have counter, but here's the kind of dilemma we're in. We could lose to some wide swings here, so I do need to leave a Dawn up for our... Okay, Rad Beam, it's not an issue. We were going to win with a bunch of dragons anyways. He just conceded there, no counter in hand. Yeah, that's kind of how the Lucci matchup works. I think maybe it would have been a little bit closer if he played Moria last turn. I think our Yamato would have survived though, so we would have had an extra attacker on this turn with their dragon, which does kind of free up some. That rested Dawn does make a huge difference on how you swing, and we probably would have had like an extra Rad Beam up. Either way, I think this is probably our best matchup, and Enel is like a close second. I think Black Yellow Luffy is also really good, just because if you establish this 5-drop Luffy and you can prevent it from dying, you kind of invalidate his whole strategy. And yeah, no, I think this is a really, really cool deck. Let me know what you guys think. I'm like very seriously debating bringing this to Treasure Cup in a week. It's been a lot of fun, and I think it has some potential. So yeah, curious what you guys think, and if you guys think I'm coping hard here, or if there's some real potential here. Anyways, leave a like, leave a comment, and tune in on stream when we're doing some testing for this deck later this week.